Okay, I call this meeting of the Allocations Committee to order at 4:36 p.m. Hello, everybody. Welcome on this very cold and blustery Dallas day. I would like to welcome two new commissioners who are not on our committee, but who have joined us in person here today. Commissioner Amber Pickens from the 3rd District, or District 3, and Commissioner Jack Bunning from District 14. Welcome. We're glad you're here to see how the sausage is made, I guess, is what we would say. And also would like to welcome Julia for joining us virtually. She will be handling the briefing on several things today, and we're going to move through this as quickly as possible. So to that end, everybody should have received a copy of the minutes. And at this time, I would be happy to entertain a motion regarding the minutes from our last meeting in November.
I move, Chair, that we accept the minutes.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jackson to approve the minutes as presented and a second from Commissioner Hornbuckle. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? The motion has passed unanimously. The second voting item that we have on our agenda is a vote to recommend additional panelists to the Office of Arts and Culture funding program. Do we have a briefing on this item, or may I entertain a motion directly? There's a briefing, and is that Julia or Haley?
Julia.
Julia. Okay. I am going to recognize Julia.
Hi, everyone. We're recommending 21 new panelists. We have a lot of different nominators, from someone who works with a lot of graduate students in arts management who nominated several. We have several current panelists who have brought their friends, which are wonderful. COP organizations have gotten their folks in early for this 2026 year, which is really exciting. We also have some self-nominations. Those come from people who find our link in the newsletter. So they're usually newsletter readers and social media. So the backgrounds represented include a big variety of students, arts management professionals, choreographers, entrepreneurs, artists, and board members of arts organizations, especially for COP. So we think all of these people are fabulous. Several assisted in Arts Activate round 2. So we're looking forward to approving them and bringing to ACAC later this month.
Do we have any? I guess I'll entertain a motion first. Would anybody like to make a motion on the panelist as presented? Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
I so move, ma'am.
So Commissioner Jackson has moved to accept all of the panel roster additions as presented. And I believe we have a second from Commissioner Daniel. Is there any discussion or any questions for Julia? All in favor? Any opposition? The motion has passed unanimously. Okay. Moving right along to the next item on our agenda, we have the recommended funding allocations for Arts Activate 2026 round 2. And we have a briefing from Julia as well on the Arts Activate recommended funding. Julia?
Thanks. I have 2 scenarios tonight to talk to you about. But first, a little bit of an overview about Arts Activate Round 2. These applications opened on September 10th, and they closed on the 29th. This is less time than we typically give applicants, and this is because Round 1 was so delayed. And we wanted to make really sure that we could still have a full 3 rounds during the year. And so this one had to just get it in by the buzzer. We really still wanted to give people this opportunity, especially those who had February and March projects. So we did it, and it closed on September 29th. This shorter window meant that we had fewer applications than a typical round 2, but not so much of a dip as you might think. Typically, we have a little over 100, and this we had almost 90. So not really as much of a dip as we were expecting, to be honest. And the perk of doing the plus side of doing it quickly was that we could still open 3 full rounds in 1 year, as our original guidelines said. Like I mentioned, we got 89 applications. There were several that we are not going to be able to consider today for several reasons that are part of the guidelines, like proposing an already funded project in the same year. That's a big no-no. And then proposing a project that didn't actually have a public event. So that's something like an after-school program at one particular school that would be only closed to those 12 children. That kind of thing that's not considered a public event is not a good fit for Arts Activate. There are, however, 2 applicants who scored very, very highly. Matthew Pettigrew in the individual artist section and Passos for Oak Cliff in the organization section, who did one part of their application that is against the guidelines, which is you submitted a budget with any kind of a deficit. Typically, what we do is we reach out to applicants who made that mistake before the deadline and give them a chance to redo it in their application if everything else is a good project and they just didn't realize that their budget had to zero out. Some folks, especially if this is their first time or they are putting together a really realistic budget and plan to cover it with personal funds if they go a little bit over, may not have that zero budget and may submit a slight deficit. So we give them a chance during the application process during the panel judging process to redo it, to submit it in, and we fix it for them so that it can be clean going through the panel. This time, staff, just to put it bluntly, I was out of commission for this time, and my team very, very kindly took over my responsibility to do this. And this was one step that just didn't happen this time. So I am asking allocations to still consider these projects that otherwise scored first in their tiers and especially high at panel, even though typically we would not pass a project through that had any deficit in their budget. They will have to submit as part of deliverable 1 a new budget that does not have that deficit, and we will tell them, this is part of 1 as you need to correct it. Both of them, this deficit that we're talking about is very, very, very small. For one of them, it's 0.03% of their budget, and the other one, it's under 2% of their budget. So this is not a dramatic thing. It's just that I've never passed somebody forward before that had a deficit in their budget. So I did just want to be upfront with the committee that I am recommending that we do that this time because of staff limitations this particular round. Okay, in these 2 scenarios, we can go ahead and move to the next slide if you don't mind. Okay, so there are 2 scenarios to share with you. There's a blue and a yellow, and for those commissioners that are new to this committee or new to watching, I usually, when there's 2, there's 1 blue, there's 1 yellow, and eventually we end up with a green that is either somewhere in the middle or one of them. So every time we get to the COP vote, the green one is the one we're going to vote on. So the blue one this time awards in score order. This particular round, we had a really great situation where every single panel had a natural break in scores. There's some place that there was a big jump between a scorer and the next highest scorer. So in each group, we go to the natural break and awards stop after the break. We are going to spend slightly less of our budget than usual to allow for bigger rounds 1 and round 3. But this still is no small round. This is 19 individual artists and 20 organizations for a total of 39 awards. And the total budget is almost $400,000. For context, we had about $410,000 to spend because we spent a little bit over our allotted $433 in round 1 to accommodate that larger round. The other scenario, we go to the next one. This awards in score order, but it skips organizations or artists that already received Arts Activate round 1. This is something that Allocations Committee put in our guidelines this year as something we could do to literally spread the wealth among more artists and more organizations. So what I did is if an artist or org was skipped, I went to the next highest scoring org, but I didn't award anybody who got below an 80%. So that was as low as I was willing to go. Because our guidelines say that if someone scored comparably, then we could do the skipping. This also spends less of our budget than usual, but it's still a hefty round. This is 19 individual artists and 19 orgs for a total of 38. All in, we take out some folks that have worked with us in round one. That allows us to, I believe there's 10 that get skipped in the process, and 8 of those 10 have worked with us in some capacity before, but not in round one. 2 are brand new to the OAC. So this total budget is $373,650. Okay, and those are the 2 scenarios.
So,
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Julia, before I call for questions or comments from the committee, do you have a recommendation for the committee? And if you do, would you share with us what your reasoning on the recommendation is?
So thank you for asking. And commissioners new to this committee, I never give you a scenario that I don't believe in, because I never know which way you're going to go. So I have to be very confident in any option that I give you, that it would be a good option that I could defend to artists. Either option is a good option that I could defend to artists in our community. And if we choose the yellow, I will tell folks that got skipped, like, this time we were trying to spread the wealth, come back in round 3 because you already got one, and we are trying to get everybody as at the table this year. I think that is a very fair read on it. That said, there were these natural breaks in every single panel this year, which makes scoring really clean. It means that, like, something made a difference between one org or the other. And so I think I would go blue one this time, because those score breaks were pretty clean. This wasn't a particularly crunchy round where 3 people got the exact same score. We went until the break every time. So I'm happy to do whatever the committee would like to do. I think either option is valid, and my team put together the project descriptions for you so you can kind of see the differences, and there aren't too many. It's really in the smaller organizations we get to do some more skips than in the individual artist side. But I think either way you go, I can defend it to our community. It's just a question of how you'd like to do it this year.
Thank you, Julia. Commissioner Holomo.
Thank you. I just, it looks like an organization that I'm on the board. They are in both scenarios as receiving money. So how do we deal with that?
I can.
Sure. So
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We had a chance to visit about that before the meeting with Julia and Commissioner Holomo. What we will do is whatever scenario we move forward with, when there's a motion, we'll take a vote on everything except that organization. There'll be no need for you to leave the room. We'll just vote, and then we'll vote on the organization that you're on the board of separately.
Thank you.
And you can recuse yourself from that vote. Commissioner Spellacy, I can't see you, but I understand you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, I do. Okay, thank you.
Yes. We can see you now,
Perfect.
too.
All right. Okay, good. Sorry, I'm shuttling kids around this afternoon. My question has to do with when I looked through this stuff yesterday, my initial reaction was to go with the blue so that we're not awarding organizations or artists 2 rounds in a row. But then I heard Julia say, there was kind of a natural break if we didn't do it that way. How many, I didn't count this up, how many groups, and artists, and organizations total would be getting a second award? Like, does that make sense? How many groups got awarded already in round 1 that would then again get an award in round 2?
You know what? Actually, before I say that, let me let me go and double check. My instinct was 10, but I think that may just be 10 that got skipped. So give me 30 seconds and I will look up that answer for you. I should know that. I'm sorry.
I believe it's 9. I'll let Julia continue to
Thank
confirm
you.
that, but I just counted and it looks like there's 9 that will receive funding
2.
again after round 1.
Commissioner Halemo, your hand is still up. Did you have a question other than the? Are there any questions or comments in the room? Commissioner Hornbuckle?
Yes, I just want to tell you, I like scenario blue, and I like Julie's explanation. I really think it's really thoughtful with the deficits, to make sure that they're being considered simply because of the situation that they didn't know. So I appreciate that. So I like scenario blue.
Does anybody else have comments, questions? Commissioner Jackson?
Just, I also like scenario blue.
Commissioner Spellacy?
The only thing I have there is, and I'm not, this is not going to be a deal breaker for me in voting for it, but that's almost a quarter of the awards would be double, like would be groups or artists that just got one in round 1. So I almost feel like maybe spreading the wealth might make, but again, I'm not hard and fast on that, because I also understand there was kind of a natural break, which, I like the numbers, so that makes sense to me as well.
Let me ask this question and see if it moves this one direction or the other. Julia, if we were to adopt the yellow instead of the blue, can you, do you have any information for us on, it looks like to me with a brief look, if we do that, we've got some organizations who are scoring like 95 or above or 98 that are getting skipped, and a kind of significantly lower score is in their, can you kind of speak to that trade-off? And also sort of, I agree with spreading the wealth, but I have to say it causes me a little consternation to miss out on a project that's scoring a 95 or a 98 to replace it with a project that's scoring an 88. I want to spread the wealth, but I also feel like the merit of the project is a really important consideration. And I feel like we've taken care of the issue of, the guidelines are written where you can actually receive 2. So there's something in my head that makes me really reluctant to tell an organization that scored 95 or 98, hey, we want to spread the wealth. There's some organizations down here that score 88 that are going to get it, but that's okay. You come back and go through this whole process again in the 3rd round. So can you speak to that, or am I completely off base on that one?
No, that's right. That is the trade-off but on, that, yes, you understand it correctly. That is indeed that is the trade-off. I apologize for laughing. My daughter is passionate about government affairs, so that's her. You hear it. But yes, that's the trade-off, is that we will have some folks that scored lower. That said, we're not scoring anybody below an 80, which, right. And the difference between an 88 and a 90 is often like a point. So right. I'm not worried about reducing, the quality of the project so much that it would not accurately reflect the city of Dallas. I wouldn't give that to you as an option. I think we will grab a couple. One of the nice things about the yellow scenarios, we'll grab a couple smaller projects that are specific to February, like the South Dallas Concert Choir's Black History Month concert that would not be eligible for round 3. But I do agree with you that there are higher scoring projects in the blue that would be ashamed to miss also. So, and Kayla actually went and checked Glenn's math for me. Thank you. It's 3 individual artists that would receive 2 awards and 6 nonprofits that would receive 2 awards.
Thank you, Julia. Commissioner Spellacy.
Okay, sorry, I keep raising my hand because so I'll agree with you, Madam Chair. I think, oops, I just put my hand up again. That's not what I was trying to do. I think straight score order probably makes sense. I would just ask, it sounds like maybe there was Julia, was that the one you just referenced for the South Dallas Concert Choir, was that the only one that would not be able to reapply in round 3 due to date?
I'm not positive. Let me check.
Okay.
That's one that in reading the description, I knew it wouldn't.
Okay.
Most others may not have been as immediate. You know, this has to be scheduled at this time, and most folks could shuffle around their date. So we don't typically look at the date as a determining
understood.
factor. I'm just using it as an example right this second.
Understood. So I think maybe then I guess what makes sense is because normally you guys will, after a round, obviously you'll notify the people that got funded, and then you'll send out to the ones that weren't funded, like some information, correct, about like what the panelists' comments were and things like that. And okay, we have a round 3 coming up. Here's the deadline. Please reapply for that. So, and then if I'm correct, the 2 is the max number of times you can be funded through this program. So the groups that have gotten 2 awards now, they would no longer be eligible for round 3, correct?
All of that is correct. So for
Okay.
commissioners that are newer, the way this works is that anyone who is not funded for Arts Activate will find out, and everybody who is will find out one way or the other tomorrow, just what they were awarded or that they were not. Those that were not will have the option of, especially if this is the second or third time that they haven't been funded, they will receive the option to ask for a scorecard, which is all of the panelists' comments, all of the scores, and potentially just staff capacity, allowing a 30-minute conversation with staff. And we prioritize folks that have been rejected a few times for those so that they get that one-on-one conversation before round 3 so they can really come back and make a strong application. And we've had a lot of success from people who take advantage of that. And we've also learned a lot about pain points of the process from people who've taken advantage of that. So either way, Fridays are a hard day for those news to come out, especially as, you know, even with our great scenario of 40 awards, there's still another, 49 that will get a no. But I think that's the best way we figured out over time to ensure that people can really give it their best shot. And those who do take advantage of that scorecard in conversation with staff, often we do see them come back in future rounds and future years.
Julia, I think I know the answer to this. Like dropping down to get that particular project, because they are only asking for $5,000, it kind of messes up the math, so to speak, because there's a natural break everywhere else. And so we don't really have am I asking my question in a clear manner at all?
Are you asking, could we pick up that one project? My suggestion would be no, because I think we've got to go with the same kind of break across everything.
That's
if
what
that's
I'm
what I'm
thinking as
understanding,
well.
what you're asking.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. I just noticed they were only asking for 5, but I was trying to take a quick look and see, but it's a pretty big break. They're at 88.5 and the next one above is 92.5. And so it sort of eliminates that kind of nice clean break that we have for everything in the blue scenario. So, okay. Any more questions or comments, or would anybody like to make a motion regarding either the blue scenario or the yellow scenario?
I'll move that we accept the blue scenario as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Spellacy that we accept the blue scenario as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Commissioner Jackson. All in favor? Oh, wait. I've got to back up. Sorry. Can you, I'm in permission. What's the organization that we need to pull out? Marketing.
I didn't make
Dallas Arts Marketing Network, DJAM.
Dallas Arts. Commissioner Spellacy, could you withdraw your motion and
Yes, I will.
reissue it?
I will
Thank you.
withdraw my motion and I will move that we accept the blue scenario as presented, subtracting sorry, what was it you said, the name of the group?
Dallas Arts Marketing Network.
Subtracting
DGN.
the Dallas Arts Marketing Network.
Okay, and just so the record is clear, Commissioner Jackson withdrew her second.
Yes,
There was kind of some
sorry.
overlapping. So we now have a motion on the floor to accept the blue scenario as presented with the exception of Dallas Arts Marketing. We'll defer the vote on that organization. Do I have a second?
Yes, you have a second.
I have a second from Commissioner Jackson. All in favor? Oh, what's that? No, I should ask this. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? The motion passes unanimous. Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously. We now need to entertain a motion on funding the Dallas Arts Marketing Organization. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we fund the Dallas Arts Marketing
Organization, yes. As reflected in the blue.
Yes, as reflected in the blue scenario.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Hornbuckle. Is there any discussion? I'd like to call for a vote for everyone except Commissioner Holomo is going to recuse himself from voting on this item. All in favor? Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you all, especially thank you to Julia and her team for some not surprisingly excellent work once again on our funding recommendations. Okay, where am I? Where are we on the break?
And I do have to say, I am this one, I am very, very grateful to my team, especially Glenn, Kayla, and Catherine for picking up a vast majority of the work on this one this time. I'm very grateful, and to all of you for your grace in a season that I've been harder to catch. So thank you.
Well, Julia, you know all of our thoughts are with you. So, and thank you for being here today. Commissioner Holomo, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to let Julia and Martine and Adriana know that I sent you all an email. It's a sensitive subject, and I don't know if y'all want to talk amongst yourselves. And then if you want to bring Chair Bragalone in, I can provide more information. But I think this has an effect moving forward on how we award grants or to who we award grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Holomo. Do we have a place on guidelines?
It's already staff updates.
Our staff updates. Okay, so we're now up to me, right? Okay, so on our agenda, we are now up to chair updates and announcements. And I wanted to, I don't have any except that I wanted to give the opportunity for our new commissioners who are here to tell us a little bit about yourselves. Normally I would do that at the top of the meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we got to all of our voting items. So Commissioner Pickens.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amber Barbie Pickens. I'm originally, I was born in Florida. A lot of people don't know that, but I was raised in Oak Cliff. I'm a Booker T graduate, along with, I went to Griner as well. They had like a arts little wing, a little arts wing there. My background is predominantly in dance, but I do a lot of stuff. I actually was awarded, I was awarded funding from this that you're talking about right now, Arts Activate during the pandemic for my coloring book, Blooming in Motion, that celebrates Black history in the dance world. So thank you all so much for all the work that you've been doing over the years. And what else? I moved to New York to go to the Juilliard School, graduated, and my main focus has always been dance, but I sing and act as well. After Juilliard, I did a little bit of work before I went to Broadway as well. Random stuff like modeling for Vogue and whatnot. Like Vogue reached out to me one day at school and was like, we want you to come on and do this photo shoot. So a lot of fun stuff that you'll see in my biography that I think is really funny. But yeah, so did Broadway, I've done off Broadway. I've been really blessed to just do some really, really cool productions that align with my calling and things that just continue to inspire me and make me question just everything going on in the world. What else? I went to St. Philip's as well, and I got to teach them. I like doing like different, dance workshops for kids in different places. So here in Dallas, I got the opportunity to go to Durban and work with some amazing students there as well in South Africa. What else about me? Yeah.
Because
I
that's,
love
because that is certainly not enough. So keep going.
I
Yeah.
love the arts.
Uh-huh.
I really feel just very appreciative to be here and just learn more about serving. I want this to be a part of my journey for the rest of my life. I want to encourage people who I'm around to do the same. I've been able to just work with some incredible artists from all around the world who a lot of times we don't even speak the same language, but spiritually, we do. I think all of us are called here for a greater reason. And I just feel very grateful. Thank you all so much for all the service that you all are doing, especially I know everybody's juggling so much, being parents, being spouses, being just a human. So thank you all. I feel very inspired even being here right now. Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad to have you, Jack. Commissioner Bunning?
Jack Bunning. I have been in the arts management for 110 years, I think. Mostly in Dallas, although I did spend 2 years in Austin opening and raising the money for the Long Center for Performing Arts, which was basically the ATT PAC of Austin. I've worked across the board in museums. I have worked for historical organizations. I have worked for performing organizations. I have sat on a zillion panels, NEA, TCA, the OCA panels in the old days. Was on the original committee of the Dallas Coalition for the Arts that formed the Office of Cultural Affairs, and was on the actual original founding member of Texas Arts Marketing Network, Dallas Arts Marketing Network that Tina's on. And for a long time, I've wanted to see what's going on. I've spent some time away for a while and then wanted to come back and get more involved. I've chaired a number of commissions for the city, most recently, well, the biggest one was for Ron Kirk. I did chair the Human Services Commission, which dealt with all the health issues and all the health funding coming through Dallas and from the feds and everywhere else. And most recently was on 2 task force for the Landmark Commission, as well as the South Dallas Fair Park Trust Fund.
Thank you. Okay. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I find myself at my age saying about all these universities, well, if I was applying now, I wouldn't get into the ones that I attended. And I kind of feel now like if I was being considered for the commission, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. But we are very excited to have you both. And thank you for joining us for our meeting. I'm sure you can see that a lot of the work of the commission really gets done in the committee. So we'd love to have you back anytime. Yes, Commissioner Hornbuckle.
I'm so proud to meet our new commissioner, but this commissioner, I've been knowing her mom and her for years, and I think she's going to bring a really exciting perspective, being in the trenches, living in New York, and I think those is going to be some fresh ideas that we are going to learn from. So I'm excited about her being here. Right, and she's an Oak Cliff girl. All right, thank you.
That is all that I have as a chair up for your, as an update as your chair. Do any of the commissioners have any announcements before I pass it on to Glenn to give us staff updates? No? Glenn, you have the floor.
Just going to remind people, I was just going to remind everybody that if those that might have registered for the Clementine Hunter
Yes.
opening is tonight, so hopefully everybody will
Going up.
go over. Yeah,
Yes.
good. Great.
Great.
I think we put my name on here, but I'm also happy to defer to Julia, but I can read off these slides, Julia, if you want me to. It doesn't matter to me.
It's fine. I can talk over them.
Great. Love that answer.
I called on you because your name was here.
No, you're absolutely right.
No, they were very kind to put Kayla and Glenn on deck for this meeting just in case I couldn't make it. So thanks for letting me sneak in. First thing is that COP orientations have been rescheduled. They're going to be the 9th and the 11th, and they're both going to be virtual. So we'll let all of our commissioners know, but you get the head start on it. It is, again, not mandatory for you, but it's a great time to, well, maybe not meet in person, but at least understand the requirements for the year. I do highly recommend it so that you know what your folks are getting into. We also will be doing COP for 2027. We will be meeting with COP organizations and some potential COP organizations that applied this year and maybe weren't as successful, but may come back in future years. as well as our current folks, to talk about what the 2027 guidelines should look like. And those meetings will be December 18 and 19. And I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about those on the next slide. So the guidelines for 2027 are coming up quickly. They need to be voted through council by February. This was supposed to be, and may still be, the second year of a 3-year COP. However, this year has been a little wild with the federal requirements, changed a lot of the COP guidelines, and we just want to have a pulse check with all of our current organizations and potential applicants to see how everybody's feeling about how the guidelines shook out and whether they're okay with those holding for the next 2 years, or we need to consider round one or year one this year instead, now that we know what we know about federal considerations. We have to get those to council by February, which means we have to get it to the lawyers in January, which means we have to vote on it as an allocations committee in January. And we're not talking to folks until December because we're working on 2026 COP up until now. So to ensure that every stakeholder gets a voice in the process of what goes in those guidelines, we really want to have that conversation, which means this is going to be a quick turnaround, getting those guidelines to you basically right after those meetings, incorporating that feedback so that you have a chance to read them before our January meeting. You are welcome to listen at these community engagement meetings. We will also circulate notes. We will not be inviting commissioners to share opinions, but you are more than welcome to be a listener in there. You're more than welcome to encourage your organizations to go so that we make sure we have everybody's voices and opinions captured in those. And again, those are going to be December 18 and 19, right before the holiday season.
Julia, on that note, on the input from commissioners, this is going to go pretty quickly. So if you have strong feelings, would it be helpful for you to know how this committee feels about certain things, like whether we continue and this is year 2, or whether we back up and make 2026 year 1?
Let me show you some of the things on the next slide. There are some conversation topics that we might have, and then I can ask commissioners if anybody would like to voice opinions now about these. This would be the time. So here are some of the things that we may talk about with these organizations. The biggest and most important is this is currently a 3-year program where there's not going to be a panel, and this is going to be basically year 2. Considering all of the changes that we had to make late in the game to COP for year 1, do you think that's fair, or would you like to restart year 1 again this year so that you still have a panel, knowing that because last year with the federal guidelines that we needed to enact, we needed to basically throw out a good bit of the panel score. We also are going to likely engage organizations to share a little bit about the allocations calculation process and ask for thoughts for future years. We may also talk to them about the fact that we have removed scoring points for having to include statements about DEI and equity, but what could we score instead? Get their take on what we could score instead to ensure that Dallas sites are represented in both audiences and decision-making with COP organizations, especially as this is our flagship program. We also want to talk to them about, we've heard that there should be some additional value placed on monthly reports because there's so much work to produce and they're so important for the city that we should be valuing those with more dollars. We also want to think about prioritizing more programming that happens outside the arts district, giving those more points, especially as it's such a key factor for our flagship organizations. If you're only getting to see them downtown, we'd love to reward organizations that go out into our many communities that are not accessible, not easily able to get to the arts district. We also want to look potentially at organizations' ability to estimate their number of services provided in a given year so that we don't award an organization that says, I'm going to serve 50,000 people with 50,000 events, and then they make 10, which is absolutely not at the scale we're talking about. But we do have often a big difference between what was in their estimations at the beginning and what we actually got. So awarding organizations who could really closely estimate that so that we know as a city more accurately what we're providing to folks. We want to ask people how they think it might be fair to evaluate their fiscal health. We've learned that that's really important to folks and want to know how they think it'd be fair. We do probably want to look at how folks are keeping their leadership and policies really up to date. Award organizations that are developing future leaders in our ecosystem. If they have internship programs, if they have young artist programs, what are they doing to develop that arts ecosystem? We've never had specific new buckets of funding for new initiatives and works, and several organizations have asked us about that. I want to do this really crazy new thing this year. Is there more COP funding for me to do this? Usually the answer is, in fact, no, but there potentially could be, and it's worth talking about with them. And also tourism dollars, especially as so much of our funding for COP is coming from HOT. We'd love to know from organizations how they think it's fair to award organizations that are bringing in a lot of tourism dollars to Dallas, which we're then allowed to hand back out. So these are all potential topics that we could talk to them about that might have some impact to our guidelines that you'll see for 2027. So I will pause here. I think the chair was asking if anybody has
Yes.
any very strong
think-
opinions about these.
I think it might be good to have a brief discussion because in past years, we've had a couple of meetings where we could ask the office to go back and, they come to us with guidelines and we could actually make some major changes. There will not be time for major changes on this current schedule. And we may even, our meeting is January the 8th. If we are unable to complete our work and pass those guidelines on the 8th, we'll have to have a second meeting on the 12th, 13th, or 14th based upon this timeline because we have to go to commission on the 15th to stay on schedule. So let me just throw it out there. Of all of these topics, is there anything anybody would like to share their thoughts on or feel like we need to have some discussion on? And we can, I don't think we need to go down the line, but are you comfortable with Julia and the staff coming back to us after they've met with the artist? Or would we like to kind of give what our thoughts are, particularly on this 3-year program, reassessing year one or whether we start, whether 2026 is now year one instead of year two? Thoughts? Commissioner Valentine, sorry.
Thank
I
you,
had my mind
Commissioner
on the South Dallas Choir's concert.
I,
Commissioner Valentine.
I appreciate you. And I appreciate the staff. So I have both a comment and a question, because I'm curious, considering how much work y'all had to do in doubling back this year, what is sort of, your preference and best case scenario with this work that you have to do now to move forward? What feels most expeditious and also fairest to, the constituencies that we serve? So that's just a general question. And then my second sort of comment in terms of prioritizing anything on this list, it would be programming outside the arts district because, as a functioning body, you all and all the advocacy from everyone that served on the commission to distribute resources geographically across the districts over the last several years through the various programs, and the incentivizing with COP has been pretty phenomenal, and I would say successful since the cultural plan was passed. So that's something to me that feels important to continue to interrogate, with COP and with our programs. Thank you.
I think that's a really good question. I have gone back and forth on this a lot of whether I think it's a good idea to keep on with the panel scores that we had and holding those for 3 years or trying to run it again. And I think I will be very curious what organizations say, because I will say we have done the very best we could given the circumstances we were in. I suspect as an organization, though, I might not be thrilled with those panel scores holding for 3 years, because a lot of what we had to look at right at the very end was never in the guidelines. And we had some organizations that, in trying to be extra honest in their yes or no survey questions, I'm so sorry, for new commissioners, panelists are usually award a majority, 70 of the points that are part of the COP scoring, and the other 30 are admin. This year, we had to cut the panel scores dramatically because a lot of them addressed how well the panelists felt that the organizations worked on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which by federal guidelines we had asked in ways that are now not against executive orders that were passed. And so we had to cut those, and we replaced them with a survey of yes or no questions about impact and access of the organization. The drawback of that is that some organizations interpreted those questions in a very, very narrow way, and so penalized themselves accidentally by not giving themselves full credit for what they were doing. And some organizations interpreted those questions very, very broadly and probably gave themselves more credit than a panel would have. So all in, I think it was the best possible outcome we could do for this year and this time. And I'm not sure that it was entirely as accurate to describing what was happening out from these organizations as we would probably like it to be. So I'm curious what organizations think, and I probably will lean the way that our organizations tell me is to be perfectly honest with you, my current plan.
Thank you, Julia. Commissioner Spellacy, I think you had your hand up. Triana, can you see if he's still there? I don't.
Sorry, did you call me?
Yes,
I had a phone call come through and it like popped me off for a second. Sorry.
no worries.
Okay, so I was actually going to say almost what Julia just said, is that given that we had the guidelines in place and then we ran the panels before all these federal regulations or orders came down, and then we kind of had to jury rig everything to try to work within those new limitations. I hate to ask groups to do the whole thing again, but I think it makes the most sense. I'll be curious to see what they say as well. But I think if we hold scores for 3 years that technically weren't within the guidelines federally, I think just it would be better for us, especially in this current like political climate and everything. I think it would make more sense to do a new set of guidelines, a new panel score that is in compliance with all that, because I think we could maybe run into some problems with I would hate to run into a problem where somebody said, look, your guidelines predated this, and then you didn't do anything to fix it for 3 years. You know what I mean? So that would be just my thought process on that.
The only clarification I want to make is that what is left standing is very much federally compliant. So to be clear, we actually have gotten updated guidelines for 2026 that are federally compliant, and the new panel scores with the quiz are federally compliant. So we are actually crossing our T's and dotting our I's for this year, but your point is well taken.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
no, I understand that. I didn't mean to say we weren't in compliance. It just seems like doing the full process that is in compliance completely from the get-go makes more sense to me, since we, had to do everything midstream this last time. So, but again, I also hate to ask groups to do this whole thing because it's a burden to do this entire process. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Spellacy. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Commissioner
I
Jackson?
mean, Madam Chair, I think that I like the idea of, asking the panelists, and I think that if we can stick with what we've done, that would be probably in the best interest of, everybody really, but we don't know if they don't agree, if the organizations don't agree. I think we need to lean on, what they feel, because they're going to be the main one doing the heavy lifting if we change it.
Thank you. On that note, just reminding everybody that those sessions are in the dates of those sessions are in your materials. I think it might help in our January meeting, to the extent you do have availability to listen to one or both of those, that would sort of be great homework for our January meeting, because then we won't solely be relying on Julia and her staff to report out to us. And it makes us less likely to, there's so many times when we get a great report from the OAC staff, but somebody will come up with a question based upon that great report, and then the staff will go back and get that answer. And so if some of us are able to listen in on those meetings, and just a reminder, it is listen in, not participate, just listen in on those meetings, then you could follow up with any thoughts that you have that might impact the work of the office. You could follow up with an email directly to the office staff, not to the entire committee. I'm sorry, just to Adriana, not to the entire committee. Remember that when you're sending those sorts of materials, you want to send it just to Adriana, because we don't want to run afoul of the Open Meetings Act by accidentally starting a conversation. So if you do have time to listen in to those meetings, that would be great. Commissioner Holomo.
Yeah, I may have missed this, but the 18th and 19th, it says time TBD, but it is also going to be a virtual option. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Julia, was there anything particular other than the discussion about the 3-year? Is there anything particular you'd like the committee to discuss today?
I don't think so. I think as you're noodling on this, I think COP organizations will take each conversation in lots of directions, I'm sure, as are important to their own organizations. I am positive that everyone will want to know about funding and how they can, make the most of their application and their year. So I'm confident that we will have lots of questions about how funding is scored, and we may have some new ideas on how to do it differently. So if you, as commissioners, have new ideas on how to do it differently, happy to take those too, to offer as, spaghetti on the wall options for our organizations to think about.
Okay, before we leave today, I am very hopeful that we do not need a meeting on after the January the 8th meeting, but I think we should reach a consensus in case there is a second meeting. It's going to be a really short, we don't want to have to figure that out between, on January the 8th. So just by show of hands, who could be available on the 13th? Or let me just say this, is there anyone who could not be available on the 13th? That is a Tuesday. Is there anyone who could not be available on the 14th? What's that? Yeah, it depends on patients. Well, do you want to take a, yeah, do
We can also send out a message to do a little survey to see what date works best.
why don't we do that, and let's everybody try to get right back. We
Yeah.
send it out this
Tomorrow. We'll send it out tomorrow morning.
And let's try to get back early next week so that we have that in our schedules before we all head out for the holidays. And that'd be helpful to get a consensus so we're not asking you to move a client twice, which we've done that before.
I'll do a real-time poll so that you guys can see which one's in the lead, like which one has more votes for what day. That helps. And I can send that out tomorrow morning for you guys.
Great. Okay.
I never.
Any more staff updates? Are we good?
Is there one more slide, I think?
I think there's one more slide, but I think it's just the count. Yep, just the calendar for the year. Those of you who had your panelist party set for the 16th, that is also postponed. Thank you for holding that on your calendar. We will do it. It just may be an end of the year thing instead. January 8th is our next allocations meeting. We're going to vote on COP guidelines, and Adriana will let us know when that second meeting just for that is. And that's it.
Any comments, questions? Okay. Yes, you may.
I just want to make a comment in the broader picture of all the funding. I think as every department moves forward in the city, and especially the arts funding, we always say next year's budget is going to be tough. I think this next year's budget is going to be super tough, perhaps due to outside forces that may have different opinions of what the city is doing. And I think there may also be, which we should be prepared for, perhaps some potential grabs for the hot money as well that we need to be aware of. And I think we should be really aware of the bigger picture on this because it's going to affect the funding dramatically. It could, maybe a battle, it may not, but I think it's brewing out there and we just have to keep our backs.
So the message for the day, continue to be good advocates for the arts, particularly with your city council members. Remind them how important it is. This is the season when there are plenty of performances to attend. So with your liaison groups, be sure and encourage your city council members and others important figures in the community to attend. On that note, the Dallas Theater Center has offered tickets to A Christmas Carol. If you do not have them and you would like to go see it, is it best to let you know, Adriana, and then you can reach out, or okay, just let Adriana know and I will put her in contact with the person at the Dallas Theater Center who can provide those. Does anybody else have any other performances that you want to encourage folks to attend? It's great to get your city council members out there seeing what these great arts organizations are doing. There's nothing like letting them see the product that's being paid for to make them advocates for the arts as well. With that, all business before the committee being concluded, I call the meeting to an end at 5:33 p.m. Thank you all for your time and a very, very happy holidays to everybody. See you in January.
Thank you.